Hello and welcome to this episode of the Course Creators Podcast. I'm Sarah Courtney, your host, and today I have a wonderful guest with me, Mr. Larry Peacock, who has been working with me on some of my programs, attended my Concept Course program, been in and out of the academy, but also is hitting some massive big tins himself, having moved on up to getting his own podcast out to the world that helps course creators as well. And we've got some really cool things to talk about today. Hi, Larry.
Hi, how are you doing, ma'am? Thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute honor.
Larry, before we jump in, can you just tell us a little bit about your background? Because one of the things I love about what you're doing is working with veterans. My husband's veteran. He fought in Afghanistan, as did my father-in-law and a number of men in my family as well. So very close subject to my heart, which is why I've been delighted to work with you on your podcast as well.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you kind of got into where you're at?
Absolutely. So I've served in the military. I'm in the Army. I'm actually still currently serving as an Army Engineer Officer with the Army National Guard in Florida, and I'm transitioning. But anyway, so I've been in for 10 years, and so I've always had this heart for military veterans. And as I transition out of the military, I've wanted to step into a role of helping military veterans with their transition from military to the civilian world. So I'm a real patriotic guy. Every time you see me, I always got a flag. I even have I have a flag with me everywhere I go. I'm just really all about that, serving military veterans, serving my fellow comrades. So I did the Veterans Online Summit in 2019, and that was one of the biggest things that kind of put me on the map, as where I was able to get all these amazing people, 2 Common Club winners and whatnot. And it was pretty easy, to be honest, because I said, hey, I'm wanting to help military veterans start an online business. So that was like my first foray to that. And then, life happened. I took a break, and then I came into your Concept to Course and really enjoyed that and got into that. And then I had this opportunity to start a podcast, which I've never done. And so that's where I'm at right now, Sarah, is launching this podcast, which I've never done before. Launches on February 15th. And again, I'm just not afraid to ask the big questions, to ask the big names. If you don't ask, nothing will ever happen. And so, I guess that's my little secret, but I'm not afraid to ask, and I'm just thankful when I do.
And this is what I've just loved watching you, Yusuf, particularly in the last sort of couple of months at the time of filming this right now, is, you were just kind of cruising along, doing your thing, and then boom, you were like dropping it like it's hot. Like there are names on your Facebook feed right now that I'm like, dude, like we're talking big wigs here. Like you've got the big names, you've got the big people, you've got these big influencers that basically have agreed to come on your podcast, which is amazing. So by the way, huge congratulations and kudos to you for getting these names that have agreed to work with you. Now, people listening to the program today are, very similar situation to you. They're starting something new. You're starting your podcast. Other people are starting their programs. I know you're in the process of developing a program or 2 at the moment as well. And they're kind of going, who am I to make any kind of influence? I'm nobody yet. I have no influence. Nobody cares who I am. No one's going to work with me until I am a multimillionaire, 2 Common Club award winner, blah, 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 blah. But you have managed to score these big names to come and talk on your podcast. How can somebody, and how have you done this? This is what everyone wants to know. How can somebody else do what you've done and get these big names to come and work with you?
I think one key component to it is having a mission. And what I mean by that is, I have a mission to help people, to teach them how to create online courses, but attached to that mission is I'm helping military veterans. So if you're wanting, whatever you're wanting to do, attach a mission that's, social, a social, I don't know what that word is, but where you're wanting to help people, whatever, it could be anything, a nonprofit. And people are gonna, they're attached to that, and they want to help. And so that was, and again, another thing that I do, Sarah, is I always start off with one person. I get my first person, a big name, and sometimes it might take me a little bit to get that first name, but then once I get that gentleman or that woman, I go on to the next person. I say, hey, I got this person, would you come on? And so I start to use that leverage of getting these big names, and then I'll put a collage, and of big names and their pictures and everything, and say, hey, I got these people, you want to join? So it's kind of like, they're like, yeah, because everybody wants to, kind of rub elbows with the top. So that's really how I've been able to do that.
And did you reach out to these people by email? If so, how did you get their contact details? Are you using social media to access these people? I mean, how is it that you've been able to kind of break that, the gateway? All these people have, EAs. My EA is certainly like, she's a force to be reckoned with. You got the army, I've got civil. How do you get through the gatekeepers?
Well, yeah, exactly. So one thing is, I join their Facebook groups, right? And I become highly engaged in their Facebook groups. So I put myself out there. I'm not afraid to put myself out there. And then I will, when the opportunity arises, I will send them a private message, and I'll comment on a public post saying, hey, thank you for all you're doing, and I sent you a quick message. Could you check it out? And that right there has helped. And again, I always attach my mission to it, wanting to help military veterans. But this latest one that happened that just blew me away was this whole new Clubhouse platform, right? I'm still not into it as much, but I just got into it. And this one I was in a Clubhouse meeting, and this guy named Danny introduced me to Dave and Philippe. Dave and Philippe are the automations team experts who did automations for the KBB, for Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, and Dean Graziosi. They did the whole automations for the entire event and created over $13 million in 12 days for this event. And so anyway, Danny introduced me to Dave, right? And I couldn't believe it. And so I just straight asked Dave, he was in the Clubhouse. He was literally in there. And so I said, hey, man, when you get a moment, I'd just like to connect with you offline. He goes, sure. And then Dave actually messaged me and reminded me that I wanted to talk to him. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So when he reminded me, I was like, yes, sir, I do have a question for you. And then it happened, and I just interviewed them yesterday.
That's incredible. And I kind of love this. I think there's this really interesting dynamic that's created in these clubhouses, because these guys don't want to look like douche knuckles in front of a whole room of people. And so if you're lucky enough to raise your hand and get picked to sit up and speak inside a clubhouse, you don't. And your question is, hey, JT Fox, like, can I interview on my podcast? Like, he is not going to want to look like that douchebag that says no to you in front of all those people.
So that's a good point. That's a good point.
Little trick.
That was the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. Just remembered it. Knowledge Broker Blueprint. Guess how many attendees they had? Almost 700,000 attendees. 700,000
attendees to an online summit.
Yes, and they were running the automations for this, and they had to have, in the podcast interview, you'll learn, they had to have 4 platforms to manage, and their number one secret to creating a profitable online course was preparation, and they were anticipating all the breakdowns that were going to happen, because they knew they would. All 4 platforms crashed during the event, but they anticipated that. I mean, it was just a massive event, 700,000 people. Anyway, talking to you guys, they're tremendous. So yeah, it was what a fabulous opportunity
in the world to have, isn't it? Like, oh no, we have so many signups, we need to have more platforms. Like, I would love to be a problem I had to deal with.
yeah, I'm launching my podcast, and they're a actual launch partner. I'm like asking them to message their database, and they're going to do it. I don't know. I don't think their database is the actual 700,000. Who knows what these automation guys have, but they're going to help me out. And I'm just like, oh man, what's going to happen on the 15th?
That is so exciting. And it just goes to show, isn't it? Like, all of us kind of sit back and are so afraid of what will people think of us. What if we do get rejected and somebody says no? What if they don't? This is the craziest thing. Like, I genuinely started my business in Australia. So I left my business behind in the UK. Didn't realize you could sell one back at the time. Rocked up to Australia with a suitcase. I had no mobile phone, no laptop, no friends, no connections, and barely any money at all. And I built a 7-figure business within months. And it was purely because I was like, I literally am not going to eat tomorrow. Like, I have no money and I have no job. And so I was the same. I was like, I don't care how many times people say no to me, because that's better than, at least I'm working towards getting a meal. And it was the same. I just went, if I knock on enough doors, I went through the city of Perth and I just went into every single high-rise building and asked if I could speak to the training manager or the HR manager or whoever was running their training. And I was like, do you know how many times I got the door shoved in my face?
Yep.
But within weeks, I had a contract, right? I went to
you have to ask.
Center. Yeah, went to the convention center and I was like, can I be a speaker? Can I be a speaker? Can I be a speaker? I literally annoyed them to the point where I'm surprised I never got like shoved out the door by security. Eventually they went, right, sure, of course you can be a speaker. Boom, contracts, right? You have to ask. If you don't, you don't get. And I always say to people, you know, if there's a big summit that you want to be a speaker on, like maybe you're looking enviously at all these pictures of the speakers' heads on summit promotions and you're like, why is my face not there? Go and put your face there, like beg them, tell them you'll do anything to put your face there, and you'll be amazed how many times they say yes, right?
Absolutely. Can I tell a brief story? Because I think it'll resonate with your listeners. So I don't think you know this, but I used to be a professional dance instructor and I owned a ballroom. I traveled the world and taught dance, trained for dance. And this is how I started, Sarah. When I started learning how to dance, I was in my mid-20s, so I wasn't young. I had no dance background whatsoever. I was a musician prior. I was a jazz musician, played the piano and trombone, and I did all this. Anyway, I loved jazz. And then one day I went to a concert to watch my buddy play, and all these people were dancing to the music, and I didn't know that you could dance to the jazz music that I was playing. I was like, you can do this? And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it so much that I quit playing the music and I just started dancing. Well, anyway, I really got good at it super fast, that within less than a year of learning, I decided I'm going to go ahead and start teaching. Well, the community got really, the instructors in the community, local community, got really upset that I was teaching. They're like, you're not good enough. You just started less than 9 months ago. How do you think you could teach? We've been doing this. We've been teaching for years. Why are you teaching? I'm like, and I didn't care. I said to them, I feel like I've learned something for 9 months. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and teach people who don't know how to dance at all. I'm going to teach them what I learned. But here's the moral of the story is I got so good. I got that much better at dancing because I was teaching others how to do it. And I had to break down step by step my process because I had to make sure they knew how to do it. And so it got me better at dancing. Anyway, those people in the community that didn't believe in me and what I was doing, I bypassed them very quickly to the point where I grew the largest partner dance in the Pacific Northwest of America where I lived. And it was just because I had this belief that I could do it, that I could teach it, and that I was going to go. So anyway, I always tell that story to people that if you want to start teaching and there's all these gurus and experts and you don't feel like you're good enough, just go out there and find people, start teaching them for free if you want, and find people that don't know how to do what you do and teach them. And that's how you do it. That's how you get started. You got to start somewhere.
That's it. And that goes straight back to actual theory, the cone of learning. The actual theory of learning is that, if you're just listening, you only take in 5% of the information. If you're listening and doing, you're taking a bit more. We get all the way right up to listening and doing and implementing. And then right at the very top of the cone of learning is teaching. So if you start teaching what you're learning, you actually retain up to 95% of what it is that you're being taught. So it's a genuine learning style that is massively enhances how much you keep in your mind. And then obviously, like you say, you then find your own way of doing it. I certainly didn't invent curriculum design and teacher training, right? But I have built an entire business on it by looking at it and going, well, how do I interpret this, and how do I then regurgitate it to other people in my own unique way, my own unique methodology. And this is one of the great successes of what I say is online learning and becoming an educator of your own. It doesn't matter how many other people are teaching what we teach, the topic, right? It's how we teach it. It's the step-by-step model that we use. I always talk about, I've created the 10 steps to creating an online course. It's my method, right? Isn't it? And that's all of us all need to do is kind of look at our topic and go, if I was going to explain this to a fourth grader, what would be the steps that I walk them through? Boom, there's your model straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I love that how you said a fourth grader. It's got to be simple. right? It's got to be something simple that they can understand the concepts of what you're teaching.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, look, Larry, it's been amazing to have a quick chat with you today. Some nice little tips that people can take away there. Perhaps, just have some courage and go out and reach out to those influencers. Larry, I really wish you the best with your upcoming podcast launch. Do you just want to remind us, our listeners today, of your new podcast they can go and subscribe to as well?
Absolutely. If they just go to highticketonlinecourses.com, that's the name of the podcast, High Ticket Online Courses. And what our podcast is we go out and we interview online course creators, and we just break down the structure of the courses that they've already created. And we also deep dive into their structure, into getting into their high ticket offers.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. It's been great to have you here, Larry, and wish you all the best with your new podcast launch.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.